Good evening. Tonight we're going to try, taste Usquaebach 15 years. I did the 12 years. A highly unusual bottle, interesting. This is not that bottle. It has changed some since I first opened it. Here's the label. The box is all black. I should have brought the box in, but I didn't. And I'm not getting up to go get it. It is 43% alcohol by volume, distilled, aged, blended, and bottled in Scotland for 20 Oaks Limited. As a Glasgow, Scotland. Select Highland whiskies from proprietor's own special reserve. As I said, it is a blended malt Scotch whiskey. It is not a blended Scotch whiskey. I had to change the cork. The cork and the seal was intact, but when I got the cork out, the cork looks like it had been chewed on by rats. Now, I'm sure it wasn't before they stuck it in the bottle, but there's a slight discoloration to it. I'm not sure, I can't say, but I've heard Ralphie talk, for instance, about like a fungus, but I don't think that's the right word. But anyway, the cork turns a little bit bad. I'm not sure if that's due to a fungus or just a mold. I wouldn't think mold would be there, but anyway, just the cork looked awful. I had to clean out because it was stuck to it, so I know the cork was intact. But the bottom side of the cork that contacted the whiskey was a little strange looking. So I went to a synthetic cork. I keep all old corks. I got tons of old corks. Anyway, the whiskey contains only the highest quality of Highland single malts blended together for this beautiful marriage of spirits. Now, after I first tried it, I was not impressed, to say the very least. But I left the cork off the bottle for an hour or so, went back to it, hit a few more times, a few more times, and been trying to let it develop. It has gotten better. Either my palate was off the first night I tried it, but I've got my notes from that night. We'll cover that in a minute. Let's get into it. Still get the apples. Very apple forward, very nutmeggy. You get some of that cooked barley note. Believe it or not, it comes through even after 15 years on this. Get a little bit of that barley grain note, but it's a malty. You get that maltiness to this. I actually do get the maltiness that has developed in this very clearly. I think it's kind of slightly nutty, almost like biscotti. As I've got it in my notes, I still get it now. The nose was nice on this to start with, and the nose hasn't changed any. It still has a nice nose. Has a rich nose to it. Cheers. Oh, well, wait a minute. Let's look at the legs real quick. I know that's really not much of a thing, but not much in the way of legs. It's between a light and a medium viscosity. I wouldn't call it a full medium on the viscosity. The spiciness comes through better on the palate than it does on the nose. It's so apple and pear forward on the nose. You do get the apples. The apples come through second. Develops real nice. But as it starts to develop across the palate, it starts to dissipate. This does not have a long finish. It's a very short finish for 15-year-old for a bottle like this. Some little tannic notes from the wood. Almost tea. Think of tea notes in this. Yeah, definitely Earl Grey. The apples are there, not as forward. The fruitiness really takes the dial back. But that nutmeg spice complex kind of takes over. Not much in the way of dried fruits on this. Let's take just one more to make sure. Yeah, I would. Stewed apples. Stewed apples. That's stewed apples with nutmeg. Very, very well layered in there. I just wish it would continue. Touch of bitterness. Not much, just a touch of bitterness. It loses some of the nutty notes from like walnuts, pecans that you get on the nose. Don't get that in the palate. And then it's finished. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's pretty quick. Finish is not long drawn out. Slight bitterness left on the side of the tongue, that tannic bitterness. After that, nothing. Score on this. I do like the aesthetics of the bottle. It's a 1 out of 9. We'll give her a 9. Nose, 1 out of 20. It's got a decent nose. I'm going to give it a 15 on the nose. Let's give it a 16. Give it a 16 on the nose. Flavor, 1 out of 20. I'm going to have to back that off to about a 13. It's not bad tasting. It's just not overly thing. Mouthfeel, 1 out of 20. Medium light mouthfeel, you know it's there. I'm going to give it an 11 on the mouthfeel. Finish, 1 out of 20. The finish is what kills this one. It really does. The finish is 1 out of 20. I'm going to give it a 9. I just got to give it a 9. Value, 1 out of 10. I paid upper 60s, I think, for this. I don't know value-wise. 1 out of 10, I think on value, best I can go is about a 6, because I wouldn't buy this again. Not tasting like that. So 16 and 13 is 29. 29 and 9 is 38. 38 and 20 is 48, 58. 58 and 6 is 64. So she gets a score of a 64. I mean, I don't know where to reach with this one, because the problem is this is a little harder to find. It's not everywhere growing on everybody's tree. This one is. This one's only a 40%. If my memory served me correctly, on the Buchanan's 15, because this is the only blended malt Scotch 15-year-old I have to do a comparison with this. I do not have a Johnny Walker Green. I haven't had one, and I think the last one I bought was 2017. I mean, I like Johnny Walker Green, but it goes back to I like so many whiskeys. I like to try different whiskeys, and it always is one of those ones that I just kind of move past. I've had it. I liked it. It's good. I thought it was back then anyway. But before I spend the money on what it costs now, I just kind of move on. I could have bought, I guess, the Johnny Walker Green instead of the Usquaebach, but I didn't. I wanted to try the Usquaebach. So, well, I don't know. I'll get the right lid yet, guys. The Buchanan Select 15 is going to be definitely different. And it's a malt. It's not a blend. It's a blended malt. Much brighter cinnamon apples. Even a little bit of the seashore smell. Slightly salty. Little dates. Fresh dates, not dried dates. Well, that's silly. They're all dry. There are fresh dates, but I've never had them. And just kind of a richness in the background. Solid medium mouthfeel. Mouthfeel's fuller than this. More dates, raisins. Still coming with that saltiness. Just a bit of smokiness way in the background on this. Ever so slight. Good finish. Medium, solid medium finish. It's not a fast finish. It's not a slow, long finish. It's a good medium, solid medium finish. Not bitter. This is not bitter. This is bitter. In the background, in the finish, I'm getting the stewed apples. But the stewed apples I get don't have that like slightly tannic bitter note to it. Much better on the finish. I need to spend more time. I just literally opened this. I got to spend more time with this before I give it a modern score. It just pours and drinks with more flavor than this one does. That's where it boils down to. There's a depth of richness in this one doesn't have. The flavors are more full, more there, and they're all just rolling around. I do not get the tea notes that I get on this. This is pretty strange in the fact that I get that tea note. If I was a score, let's just do it real quick because we're here, we got time and stuff. Aesthetics on the bottle, that's always a neat bottle. Like the embossment on the back, that always, they put a lot of work into the bottle on that. So the aesthetics of that's pretty good. We do have some legs that we don't have on that. Got show and run. I know I give this one a 9 because the old and it's still got the collar label on it and all that. That's kind of appealing in a lot of ways. I'm still going to give that one an 8 though. Let me see here. Nose on this one, much better. I'm going to give the nose a 17. Now remember, this is a blended malt. This is not to be compared with these scores to single malts or even blends. Okay, you've got to keep that in your mind. Even though this may get a score, we're going to see. Flavor, 1 out of 20. Flavor's boosted on this. This is a 16 on flavor. I mean, we're doing a direct comparison here. Mouth feels better. We're going to give mouthfeels a 1 out of 20. We're going to give the mouthfeel a 15. Finish, we're going to give that a 14. And the value, I can't remember what that now. This is 4 or 5 years old, but I believe I paid even at that time. I don't know. Around $60, upper 60s, I think, for it then. I don't think the price has changed all that much, so I think somewhere between 65 and 70 is what they'll sell for. I may be wrong, but in my area, I think that's where I think they're still at. So value on it, you're getting more for roughly the same price as this. So the value comes up to an 8. When compared to other, well, if we were comparing a single malt to this score here is going to change. It's just the way it is. So where are we at? 17 and 8's 25, 35, 41, 51, 56, 66, 70, 78. So we're looking at a 78 compared to a 64. Much better score. Much better score. Well, I've said about all I need to say about them. The new scoring system changes the scores a little bit. Feel like I'm overscoring. I hate that feeling that I've always had that everything falls in that 80 to 90 range. Then the really few good ones fall into the 90 and above, and the few really bad ones fall below 80. And there's got to be a broader range there. And that's why I went to this system that they used, Tanner and those guys use. I think that the system probably should favor flavor, maybe a 1 out of 30, and we could take 10 away from the mouthfeel and 10 away from the finish maybe, or even 1 out of 30 and take 5 away from the mouth. Anyway, we should favor flavor at least 5 to 10 points more than everything else, because it's all about flavor. I don't care what it smells like. It can smell like dog crap. Mouthfeel be watery as heck, but when I swallow it, it tastes like the best thing I've ever had in my mouth. It's got to be rewarded for that, I think, anyway. But we're going to stick with this system. You got to pick a system. You got to start somewhere. So this is my system I'm using. For anybody that's hung around this long, thank you very much. This is a long video. I appreciate it. You know kind of what I think about them now. So I'm going to end it. Remember, the spirit in your glass isn't running from you. Take your time, sip it, enjoy it. You'll be better for it, as will we all. And everybody have a wonderful night.